Hello and welcome. This video is about putting together a very simple layout, keeping everything nice and square, reasonably professional looking, and it builds upon the last video which was about printing from paper space. So we'll be using some terms that were covered in that video. It'd be best if you look at that first, if you haven't already. By sort of default, AutoCAD normally gives you two sort of basic layouts. If you've already got something on these layouts, just click the little plus button and a new one will pop up. I'll delete these two because I only need one. And the first thing I'm going to do is just set up my page. And in the last video we looked at how to sort of measure your site and work out roughly what scale page combination you're going to use. So again, check that out. I have an idea what page I want, so I'm just going to set all this up quickly. I'm going to do A2 landscape, width, height. So width is bigger than height, so it's got to be landscape. Printing to layout, 1:1 because we don't scale a viewport in paper space. Plot transparency, that can be set to none, and the override, that's okay. And the paper, the white bit has got bigger, the viewport has stayed the same size, so I'll just make that a bit bigger so we can see it, and just move it away from the edges. Now to sort of set it all out nice and neatly, you need a sort of baseline to go by. I want to have the viewport in this section here, and then down this side I'll have my sort of key and client details, etc. There's two ways you can sort of put a nice edge around it to work to. You've got this dotted margin. Anything that goes over this margin won't be printed. So I'm going to use that as my sort of base. And remember, this sheet is in millimeters. And I want to draw a rectangle on that dotted line. But you can't snap to a margin. There's you have to either do it by eye or use the fit command for a different sort of viewport. But if you zoom in quite a bit, and bearing in mind we're in millimeters, and plot it by eye, you'll get it so close that you seriously wouldn't see any difference. And I can use that to set everything out with. Now the alternative way is to type mview and select fit, and it basically draws a viewport on the extents of the margin, and then you would get your rectangle and you can lock to the corner of the viewport, and then you would send that to the back so your viewport's in front of it, and delete the viewport, and you've got the same thing. So whichever way you do it, it doesn't really matter. I've forgotten to give myself a new layer, so I'm going to call this layout. And I'm going to put everything on the paper space layout onto this layer. So I'm going to set it to current, which is that one. And I'm going to set both these items to my layout. And hit escape, so everything's on, and layout is now the current layer. So I don't like working to a border, just in case it gets passed to a client and they go to print it and for some reason it just misses a little bit of the edge off. So I always come in a little bit. Using the offset command, I'm just going to make another rectangle inside a bit. And you can put a fixed distance in, like 10 for 10 millimeters, or you can just draw what you want roughly to there, then click it and bring it in, and then I'll delete the other one. So this rectangle is what I'm going to use to set everything out, and you can delete it at the end. And my viewport, because this is a rectangular viewport, it will stay sort of, it'll keep its shape. So I can just now lock that to there, bring this in, and I'll have that as my key area, maybe a little bit smaller. And I'll draw another rectangle there. It's my key. So now I'm going to double tap the viewport and use the mouse wheel to zoom it in a bit. So I'm roughly sort of looking at what I want to see. Double tap outside, and you need your properties up. If you haven't got your properties up, just go up to the view, hit properties, dock it so you can see them and they don't get in the way, and then click on the viewport, which is this one, and I've got my scale. So that is, if I put in 3.333, that's going to be 1 to 300. I can't see some of the trees, so I've got to go down, and the next one is 2.5, which is 1 to 400, and I'm going to have to use that. If I want to go for something like 1 to 200, I'm going to have to put the sheet up to A1 instead of A2. This is an A2 sheet and it's 1 to 400. And these values were all explained in the last video. With all that set up, I'm now going to start work on doing a simple little sort of sidebar. And I'm going to use rectangles, they're so easy. I'm going to have one here, and I've got my lock, as you've probably noticed. I've got my settings to intersection and nearest, and anything else I need I set manually from this bar, or you can right click and select them. I think it's shift right click if I remember, that's it. Shift right click to select any overrides. So it's going to just lock onto that corner, and I want it to be about there for my logo and address. And then I'm going to have one above that, about that sort of size. And I'm going to put one midway along there. So I'm going to select my midpoint so it locks onto there. And then I'm going to copy those, push them up to there. And this one's going to be my scale box, date, drawing number, and I want this divided into 3 because I'm going to have revision number, drawn by, checked by boxes. And an easy way to divide it by 3, actually I'll draw a polyline from there to there, and you've got divide, which is this one. Select the object, which is just that polyline I put in, and I put in 3. And what it does, it just plots points wherever you said divide. If you did 4, you'd have 3 dots. Divide by 4, divide by 3. If you said 2, you'd have just 1 dot. Point. And then I'm going to get my square again down to here, and I'm going to select node, which is to click to a point, and I'm going to do that again, and I'll just put a final box there, and then I'll just select everything in there. There should be 2 nodes and 1 line to get rid of. Hit delete. And then above this I'm going to have my site address box, which should be a bit bigger. And above that, my client name box. And I'll copy this because I want it the same size for the next one. And that's going to be the drawing title box. So that's all that. And I'm now just going to make a simple little text style, which I want to just have for the layout. I don't want anything else to use it. So I'm going to click new, and I'll just call it layout. And that's my text style. Ryle. Don't need to define any of these because they'll be done through mtext. So click OK, and it's set it to layout. And then I'm going to click mtext and just put a box in there and add some name. What shall I call myself? Super tree services. '23 Super Road, Superville, and city postcode. And columns, make sure you select these to none, otherwise strange things can happen. I'm just going to pull him down to there, and I'll set the justified to middle left, whack the height up. This is a very simple one. You would probably spend a lot longer doing your own. Now I'll stick that back there actually, and give it some colour. Give it a nice green, bit darker, and a little bit bigger. Okay, and I'll have another one of these down the bottom. I'm going to stretch him out, and I want him to be justified middle center, and I want the text to be smaller, and I'll just go for white on that. And this will just be things like telephone 01234, email super at whatever.uk, and a website super dot. I better put something that is completely useless, because no doubt someone out there has got the super website. So they are really simple, and could play with this. You could select this, make it a bit smaller, select this, give it a bit of bold, bring it in a touch, but no, it's messing all up. Okay, so I want a little logo. I'm going to go to FreeCADs. I love FreeCADs. www.freecads.com. No nonsense FreeCAD drawings, and you don't have to pay for them, you don't have to log in, you don't have to do anything. Tree, and you can just sort of search through and find you whatever you want. And then you just click on it and download it as DWG. I'm not going to do that because I've already done that before. Whoops. So this is something I've downloaded from FreeCADs. I'll just copy it and paste it. I'm going to give it some color and line weight. And then make it into a quick block. And scale it. So this needs to be a bit smaller. And I better justify it to the right. Okay. Just bring it from that edge. So, okay, that's great. That'll do. Yes, it's awful, but this is just a quick run through. Now you could, of course, use an image. And I think I've got one ready. I can find it on another screen. I've got some clip art here. So I'll just copy it. But before I do that, I'm going to save my work because AutoCAD can be a little bit funny when it comes to pasting in things like images. So I'll just save this as test. And if I paste my image, the thing about image, they must be high resolution. You need it as big as possible, because otherwise you could end up with a very blocky sort of image. So I could have that instead, and the frame won't show when you print it out. But I'm going to stick with the CAD one. I mean, if you can do your logos in CAD, your pictures in CAD, it's much, much better. You'll scale nicer, and you won't get the blocky stuff. So that's that. And then I want to put in some text into these boxes. So I'll just copy this one. Chuck him up here. And this is going to be a drawing number, so I'll just call it Super Tree Services TCP 1. And bring these corners onto the corner of the box. Might change the size, the text size of that later. And then copy that to here. Bring it in. And this is going to be the revision number, so I'll just put in 1. And then copy those to there. And you normally have like a drawn by box and a checked by box. Someone checks it, someone draws it. So CS. And then the initials of whoever checks it, well, that'd be me as well. And in this box here, I'm going to have the sheet and scale. So I'll just copy that again. And I'll stick one in there while I'm at it. So this would be, this is 1 to 400. And I'll just put A2. And this will be the date. So today's date, I think it's the 10th. And I'll grab this one, copy him, bring him up here. Always copy stuff and adjust it rather than redo it from scratch. It saves a lot of time. So this site South Green Road. I'll call this South Green Road. Actually, we should call it Land at South Green Road. And above that, I'm going to have the client's name and address if you so wish. I normally just put the name. So I'll call it Mr. Super Duper. Copy that. And tree constraints plan. I'll just make him a little bit bigger. So that's all that, and I also just want to have some little text in the corners just to tell you what all these things do. So I'll just pick one of these, copy him, and make him a bit smaller. And bring the text size down to, let's try 2. So this would be date. And that looks fine. Copy that. And I won't put, yes I will, I'll put one in there anyway. So drawing, title, stretch them out a bit. Client. And this is going to be a site or project. I should have really had all these justified differently, shouldn't I? That's much better. Right, actually I've selected them all, so I'll just move the whole lot. And he just needs a bit of attention. But because I want them all to be the same, I'll just select that text. And then copy him to there. And because I don't want to move it, I'm just going to make the width bigger. So I just didn't put any errors in there by moving it, and it would never be precise like the rest. So this is sheet and scale, date, drawing number. And he's gone out. And revision drawn by and checked by. Okay, that will do. And this is a tree constraints plan. So I'm going to put a little key now, but I'm just going to save my work. And because it's a TCP, I don't need to see the topo trees, so I'm just going to switch those off to leave my tree canopies, which are much more accurate. So we've still got the layout set, layer set, and I shall start by roughly working out where I want my first box to go. I want it to go in about that far. I'm not going to click the mouse, I'm just going to look at the sizes on the readout on the screen. So I reckon 16 square would be nice. So I'm going to come down to dimensions and put in 16, 16. And wherever I move my mouse, it will go from the first corner I plotted. So I want it to be there. And then I'm going to grab that and copy it. I'm going to switch on ortho to force it along an axis. And I want the text to end just before the line, about there. And I want the text to start with a little gap from the box about there. And then I'm going to put another box from that corner to that corner. Oops, and delete these. And then I'm just going to grab some text. He'll do. Switch off ortho. Stick him in there. And lock its corners onto that box. Then I'm going to delete the box. And I'll just call this trees for now. And justify it to middle left. And this is just going to be a general box for showing where the tree's plotted. So I'm going to just put a circle in the middle of this. Before I do that, I need to make sure it's in the center. So I'm just going to draw a line from corner to corner. And then get my circle and click midpoint. And I'll have it about there. This is going to be the canopy. Get rid of the line. He's going to be green. And I'm going to want to show this little symbol. So I shall use a donut with the center set to 0. And the outside set to about there. And then center him on that circle. And set him to one of the category colors, doesn't matter which. And then I'm just going to put a circle around the thing. I'll switch off the snap for a minute. And I want a little tag number, so I'll copy him and just put something like T1. Bring him down. Actually, my tags show the category, so I'll just put the category in. Let's just say B1. And then you just put some text in as you please, really. I think I had some text somewhere which I'd set up. You know, whatever you like, there's no rule. So this text has got to come down in size to fit it in. I'll just underline the top bit. And while I'm at that, let's just grab this, stick him there. There you go. Key. So now I can select all that, copy it. I want ortho on, And I want that sort of about that much gap. Okay. And I'm going to delete that, scale this up about there. No, that's a little bit too much. Scale it back down a bit. Switch him off because I'm not going to be able to do it otherwise. About there. Grab my predefined text from Notepad. It's on a different screen, you can't see me selecting it. And get rid of the underline on that. And these are still a little bit too big, they're clashing, so I'll bring it down. That's better. And of course this should be green for category A. And now you've got your gap between the boxes set. You would use this as your base point. I need my snap on. And then you go down to the next base point and ortho off. And the next base point. And the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm also going to need one more box for the root protection area down the bottom. And he's going to be blue. He's going to be grey. Colour 8. And he is red. Now I'm just going to cut and paste my text again. And again, of course, you must do your own text as you wish. I mean, you may not even wish to do it like this at all, but the idea of this is just to sort of show you a way of doing things. You know, if you're a complete beginner, this isn't a bad way. And even now, this text is still clashing a little bit. I'm just going to have to make them all a bit smaller. So we'll just come down to 2. Okay. And on this bottom one, I want this to be an RPA. So I'm just going to put a circle, lock to the center of this one, out to about there. Get rid of these. He's going to be magenta because my RPA circles are magenta. And he's still a little bit too big. And grab my text. And that's really all I need for that. I'll just put a little box around it. And you can also have, I normally stick a little info box in this top corner here. So I'll just grab one of these, bring it over, and put some text in it. And if your plan sort of migrated under it, if it was like that, obviously you'd want to blank that out. So you just put the give it a mask of whatever value you chose, and use the background drawing color, which is sort of white, so it's masked out anything that's under it. And that's it really. That's a way of doing it. It's a sort of method I mainly use. If I had tree groups represented with, say, dashed lines or something, then I'd have another little bit in here, a dashed line in there in the key. And when you come to do like tree protection plans, you would add lots more bits and pieces. I think I've got a drawing actually, if it's this one here, and this sort of gives you an idea of what I mean by the tree groups. And then you're moving into the tree protection plan, whatever sort of, you know, things you use to represent things. There's no rules really. But these are generally things you will eventually need at some point, so it's best to sort of, you know, set yourself up with the tools you need and keep everything consistent. So once you've chosen a style of key, then you can just add boxes as you please. And really this goes for this as well, because once you've made this, there's no need to do it again. You can import this into your next drawing. If I save this, we save this as test, I'll get rid of this tree, we don't need that anymore, and him. So if I go back to the drawing we started with, and right click on this little plus, you've got import from template, and that can mean a drawing as well. So if I click that and import from my test drawing, which is actually still open, but it will let me do it, and import it on the new layout, I've got the key and everything all set up. Now it's a bit unfair because obviously the viewport is set up to show this drawing, so it wouldn't actually look like that. You'd probably get a blank screen because this is from a different drawing, and you know, the actual plan will be at different coordinates. But if you knew you wanted to use, say, an A2 sheet with landscape, it doesn't matter about the scale because you can change that. You would import it, double tap, zoom extents, and then set your scale. I've just got to send all these to the back because I sent my viewport to the back, and then you just set your scale to 1 to 400. So, you know, don't keep doing the same job. Once you've done it, it's done. Modify it, play around with it in the future, but certainly don't keep doing it from scratch each time. So going back to our drawing, it's time to create our scale now, and our little north pointer. So I'm going to do a simple little north pointer. I'm going to plot one circle there, circle inside him, about there, and another one inside him, bring him to there, and then I use polylines. From the center, I'm going to go to one of the quadrants, I'm not going straight across because I want to change one of them. Oops. And to this quadrant. And I'll just get rid of the outer circle. And I'll give this one some line width. A bit more. And I'll stick an N on the top. Bring all this right in actually. And I'm going to stick him on the end of the line. And now I'm going to move him with ortho on so it stays, and whack the size up. And now I'll select everything. I'm just going to turn him into a block. Just call it my north. Convert to block, yes. Allow exploding, yes. Okay. Close. Insert. North. Chuck him here. And he's been scaled because I expect my unit's insertion is set to inches. I'll select him to millimeters. So if I did it again, I could have just scaled that, but I just want to show you. And he's over here now. But at least he's the right sort of scale. And now I can just scale him to what I roughly want, about there. But by having it as a block, you can rotate it, because sometimes your drawing will be rotated. But under here I want a scale bar. I'm just going to save my work. Now you can calculate the scale and work out how big it should be in millimeters, but I like to do it the foolproof and easy way, because I don't really like to think too much. And I do that by just drawing a circle on the drawing and give it a radius of 10 meters. If your drawing was in millimeters, you'd have to make that 10,000, but this drawing is in meters. So it's got a radius of 10. And I need to draw a scale bar, because I want my scale bar to say to be 10 meters long. All I have to do is match it up to that. I know that's 10 meters, that's drawn one-to-one on model space. Now if I draw a circle on top of that in paper space, and I can lock onto it in model space, I can lock onto model space items whilst in paper space, and lock it onto that, and then look at the radius of the thing I've just drawn. It's come up as 25. While in model space, the model space circle is 10. But the paper space circle is 25. And that's because we've drawn it on a scaled drawing. 1 to 400. If you multiply 400 by the 25, you get 10,000 millimeters, so it's 10 meters. So that scale is correct, and that distance is correct. But it's incredibly confusing. Anyway, So what I need to do is draw my scale bar using the model space 10 meter radius circle. So I'm going to start just by drawing a polyline from the center to the quadrant. And the length should be 25, as we've already looked at. So I'm just going to snap one corner of my rectangle to the center of the circle and sort of decide how deep I want it to be. About that deep. I'll just click that, copy that corner onto this. It won't latch onto that, so I'll use the quadrant. And now I can draw a rectangle from there. Make sure you get the corner, not the circle, and get rid of them. And I'm going to get rid of the circle. Oh, I can't get rid of the circle, it's model space. I'll just move this out of the way. Bring it down here for now. And then I'm just going to put a box halfway along. Just that one. And copy that. And I want to divide this into 5, so I'm going to just use divide again. If it was 2 or 4 or even, I can do it easily by using the midpoint, but odd numbers are a bit more difficult. So I just need to do a line first. And I'm going to divide him by 5. And it gives me 4 points. So I'll get my little box onto the node. And I'm just then going to copy that to there, to there. And then delete 4 points and 1 line. And then I'm just going to hatch solid the first one, third one, and the 5th one. I'm going to grab him, stick him there, delete that. And whack the size down. And then I want some more text. I can put a little line on if I wanted. Just switch on ortho. And this this polyline I've just drawn has got a global width, so I've got to 0 that to get the line weight to take effect. And then I'll copy him, that corner to that corner to that corner. He's going to be 0. Get rid of all these, get the ortho off again. And I'm going to justify him to top center. Lock him onto the bottom of that line. And then move him with ortho to give a gap. And then copy him. It's going to be 5. And he's 10 meters. So that's a very little simple scale bar. Get ortho off. And it looks a little bit odd. If this was an A3 sheet, that would actually be a reasonable size, because you'd be making this key much smaller. But it looks a little bit odd in this, so I'm just going to add a bit on. I'm going to add that box, that line, and that. Whack him on there. Let's make him 15. And I mean, you can centralize it properly. I'm just doing it by eye. And once you've done this, copy them and put them on your little resource drawing, or whatever you call it. Because that scale bar is good for any sheet at 1:400. It may be a bit small for an AO sheet. You may have to extend it to 25 meters or 20 meters. And for an A4 sheet, you'd probably just have the 5 meters bit, because you'd have everything so much smaller. You know, this key would be nearly half the width of this, because the whole sheet is so much smaller, and that would just be too long. But the actual scale is set correctly for 1:400, and you must remember that. You mustn't go changing your scale here to 1:250 without bringing in from your other drawing a scale for 1:250, because obviously that is wrong now. And you must never scale a scale bar unless you know what you're doing. But this circle is 10 meters radius. If I grab my scale bar, drag him over to the center of it, that's the 0 point, so center of the circle, so it's dead on 10 meters. Once you've sort of got one set up like this, it's easy to say make a 1:200 one, because you can't actually just double the size of it. I'll show you what I mean. If I change the scale of this to 1:250, sorry, 1:200, and I grab him, I'll make a copy of him. Oops. And I put him on the center of the circle. This circle is still 10 meters radius. So if I was just to scale this by 2, so I'll just put in 2. Because it was 1:400 and I've changed the scale by 50%, I can change this scale bar by 100%. I can double it, and it's now set for 1:200. So I can now take him, put him over here. Obviously the whole thing's got big, and I can call him 1:200. And I can go again to 1:100, and then again to 1:50. I could go the other way, 1:800, but you don't normally use 1:800. You basically just build up a variety of them and different sizes, because this would be good for an AO sheet, but for an A3 sheet that would be a little bit too deep and in your face, so you'd want it a bit narrower. And you just build them up and have a selection to pick from as you do your drawings. But that's the way I do it. I like to have the circle actually plotted on model space for a given value, whether it's 10 meters, 5 or 20 or whatever you choose, and then you know that you've got it right. So that's that, and put this back to 1 to 400 and get rid of that circle. So that was just a simple run through. I'm sure you'll do things your own way, but as a sort of starting point, that's one way of doing it. So I hope this video was a bit useful, and see you on the next one. Bye bye.